Hello.
I've realised it doesn't count. Wait, it doesn't count. It doesn't
What?
count. No.
It doesn't count.
Crazy.
Ah!
Now we're live.
And
Now we're really live.
we're officially on air. Welcome
Well,
everyone to our last live episode of the
2022.
year of 2022. This
Yeah.
is it. Friday, December 16th.
Wow. This is our last working day of 2022 as well. Official working day.
Our last official working
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
No, I know. It's crazy. The
Crazy,
year is
right?
over. I was
Wild.
thinking, this has been really fun, this podcast, this
Yeah, it continues to be great.
vidcast, this vlog, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's been a great experiment, a great experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in 2023 with it.
I am too. It's interesting what you were saying yesterday about, what it does to our afternoon energy. Because as you were saying, typically our morning energy is our most creative energy. It's our most focused energy. We tend to get more done from the hours between 9 and 1.
Yeah.
And when we come back after our lunch break, generally where it takes a minute to get the motor going again, it just starts kind of slowly, and we aren't generally as good on the output. But this has really, I think, changed that because it has given us a focus. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because of course we know that we're doing it live. We know that we're being potentially watched, even if we're not being watched live in the moment. That people will.
They'll watch us eventually.
Someone will watch us eventually.
Yeah.
So it does make us go, we have to bring a good amount of effort and a good amount of creativity to the process. But that makes me go, what is it just about the inclusion of that thing that mentally makes you go, oh, I need to step into and engage into this process? It's just interesting.
It's probably literally just like what you said, which is that people are watching and expect us to do something.
Right.
You can't just sit here and be quiet for an hour.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there are, and I think during the pandemic, this became very popular for a lot of people, especially when they were working at home, from home. There are services that you can subscribe to whereby you are partnered with random person who's also
have them on in the background.
And you have them on in the background. And you say at the start of the hour, hey, my name's Jake, I'm working on my screenplay. Or hi, my name's Dave, I'm working on my thesis.
Right.
And you go, great. And you just keep each other there.
Yeah. I mean, it's great for people who that would be weird for me. But maybe that's just because I have you to be on in the background. So I'm thankful for that. So there's a couple of topics that were suggested to us, which is great.
Yes.
I also want to just I thought we'd take a couple of minutes and just kind of recap our year. I think that there's always something really good. Again, this is kind of Ben and Jake process.
Yeah.
Which is we always kind of we end the year kind of looking at what our year was, what we accomplished, what we'd like to do better next year.
I think it's really good. Obviously we can't talk too much about things.
Right, we have to be
tactful about certain things. So, we went into this year. I'm trying to think where we were at this time last year. So this time last year, we had an A-list actress attached to one of our scripts. We had a very successful actor attached to another one of our projects that was going to be going out, we thought, as close to the new year as possible.
I'm only looking for positives.
we knew we had a movie coming out. We were working on 2 television shows. But this, I think, will be interesting for people to kind of go, oh, interesting. This is what
the year goes.
And
we were working on 2 TV pitches.
Working on 2 TV shows based on IP. One very big IP. It's just been in the news again recently. So it was, and we knew we had a film coming out.
Right.
Our first film coming out. So there was a lot of very...
There's my hair. I took my hat off and went, I shouldn't be that.
And at the end of the year, not everything has gone to plan.
No, it never does it?
I would venture to say that other than the release of The Princess, none of it went to plan. You know, the actress that we had attached to the project dropped off. The script with the actor went out. And again, this wasn't a new project. This was a reacquired project.
People, if you've seen, it was 40 Thieves. It was on the tracking board. Yeah.
Well, it went out.
Technically, it's out in the town.
Technically, it's out in the town
now.
And I don't know if it will sell.
Yeah. We haven't had an offer yet.
We haven't had an offer yet. So,
yeah.
And here we are on the last working day of Christmas. And I don't really think I'd be surprised if the phone rang at 5.
Right.
So there's that. One of the TV projects completely imploded. Just completely gone, none, you know.
Gone in one day.
Months of work.
Months of work. Yeah.
Months of work gone.
Yep.
The other one has been a long, slow process. We are pitching it to networks in February. And we do have a studio attached, and that's great. And that continues.
That was a big accomplishment this year. I mean, it's what's called an if-come deal. Yeah. For anyone who doesn't understand what an if-come deal is, I didn't really. Basically, we have a studio who is willing to make the show if a distributor decides to come on board to distribute the show. So we've essentially sold it to the people who are going to primarily finance it.
Yeah.
But they won't finance it if there's no one to air it.
Yes. So that is good. And also I was hoping that was going to happen this year.
Yeah, it was.
You know. But whatever. We went up for several open writing assignments, none of which panned out.
Nope.
One of which, again, completely imploded in on of itself because of Warner Brothers stuff. So it's been a year of it's been wonderful because The Princess came out, and it's incredible to have a movie out. In fact, I was watching Bullet Train with my dad last night. He was watching the movie. He said, "Where have I seen this girl before?" I was like, "Dad, it's The Princess." He was like, "Oh my God, yeah!" You know, it was, and still people having such nice reactions to that movie.
If you haven't seen it yet, Hulu in the US, Disney Plus everywhere else, Hotstar if you're watching from India.
Yeah. And so that was great. And then also nothing else went to plan. And again, very buoyed by the release of The Princess. And then also it's kind of going, Hollywood is insane.
Other things kind of came out though that weren't necessarily planned. We have a production company that's interested in shopping another old script of ours. We're in the process of negotiating. That kind of came out of total nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
An old project that we had started with a producer regained new life in August.
We came up with a bunch of new ideas, which we're exceptionally
great new ideas we're excited about.
We started doing this.
Yeah, right? We, what else? I feel like there's, we have a book series that we have a shopping agreement on,
which is next year.
Spectacular book series that we just attached a major producer to, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So we'll be taking that out next year. And some of the projects, while they kind of slowed, and this is really the state of the business right now, is things are taking forever. And the problem with that is on multiple levels. One, if it takes too long, you risk losing talent, momentum. Things, people's careers change, people's availability changes.
People stop working at studios.
Right. Things change. But the one of our specs, which I'm still extraordinarily excited about, while it's going to continue to need much development, is still moving forward.
It's still moving
forward. And our producer is extremely excited about it still.
And there were names thrown about the other day that were really exciting. I was like,
yeah. So we're talking to A-list talent on that.
Yeah.
We've got another project that we're doing with our beloved Derek Kolstad that I'm really excited about. And we've also started to produce some of our own things. We've been shepherding a couple of scripts by other writers. So it's a weird year. It's been a weird year, but I would say
I didn't actually mention it because Nate mentioned it on his channel.
Nate is definitely one of them, and then we have a script by Dave Madelon, who was also our guest.
That's right.
That we are shepherding as well. So we've been busy.
We have been busy. We've been very funny, isn't it? Because you look back at the year and go, "We've been busy," and you go, "Well, what have I got to show for it?"
Movie streaming on Hulu.
Movie streaming on Hulu, but not because of this year's work.
No,
it's interesting, and so it's one of those. Again, it's one of those things about kind of going. What we were talking about yesterday. Our work doesn't look like everyone else's work. It's gonna look different. The bricklayer or the contractor can step back at the end of the day, going, "Yeah, I put in that drywall today, or I built that wall, or I did this thing."
Right.
And there is a lot of delayed gratification, I think, in screenwriting. Now, the only thing that, again, I think that you can say at the end of each day is, did I write today? Did I put words on a page in a document?
Or did I work toward, I'll go back to yesterday's conversation. Did I work towards my business today?
Yes, sure, totally. Yeah.
Because, yes, on the creative level, it'd be great to write every single day. Really would. But for me, I also go, if I didn't write today, did I do something to forward my business today? This morning we didn't write together, but we did do something that I think is great for what we do as our businesses.
Which is what? What did we do this morning, Ben?
What did we do this morning, Jake? We send out a Christmas card. We love to send out a Christmas card or a holiday card. Hanukkah for me. And I think that number one, it comes from a genuine place where we truly do want to wish those that we know a happy holiday season, and also from a business perspective, it's about reconnecting with people. Absolutely. There are people on our holiday list where we might have had a general meeting with them 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a great meeting, and we really would love to work with them. But you can't have general meetings all the time. And honestly, like emails to people when you don't really have anything to say always are a bit awkward as well. It's like, if I don't have a script that I want to send you, why am I emailing you? But a holiday card is a really great way to just say, hey, I'm still out here. You're still out here. 2023 is coming around. Let's reconnect.
Totally right.
And it's great.
We have had several experiences whereby that card has turned into meetings, and those meetings have turned into work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's about maintaining the relationships that you have, and I think it's really important.
I think that is important. And whether it's through a holiday card, you may not be a holiday card person, but maintaining your relationships is important, because this is a relationship business.
Yep.
When it comes down to it, Hollywood is a relationship town. And, it's not about using people or being insincere.
No.
It's about, we all do this. Everybody in this business understands that we want to work with people we like.
Yeah, completely.
Working on a movie, we're working on a movie right now. We just talked about recently, like 2 seconds ago, this spec. It has been 2 years we've been working with this producer on this project, and we haven't been paid a dime yet.
Nope.
But we really like him, and so we're working with him.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So don't send out holiday cards to people you don't like. Send out holiday cards to people you do like.
Don't send out on today's show. We say don't send out holiday cards to people you don't like.
Honestly, I do feel like sometimes people network just like with everybody. like just like literally like I just want to like keep up relationships with everyone that could possibly get me work one day. And I think it was we were having a conversation with Derek at one point, and it was like, life's too short. I just want to work with people I like. Like, there's a lot of people out there, and look, we have the blessed fortune at the moment where we have enough relationships where we can pick and choose and go, you know what, we don't like that person, we don't want to work with you anymore.
Yeah, sure.
But when you're starting out, you kind of do have to take whoever open.
Yeah, but if for relationships you're like, oh no, they really screwed us over or whatever, you're like,
yeah, I mean, look, there's production companies that I will not work with anymore.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
it's just the way it goes. But and I'm sure they won't work with me either.
They're not sending you a holiday card.
No, they're not. But that is, look, I think it's been a year of ups and downs, and I think that the key is that is being a screenwriter. And I think that's what's important. That's the lesson, I think, of 2022.
Yeah.
We can have the highest of highs. The Princess, our first studio movie, a big, flashy $40 million movie, came out on Hulu and worldwide, and it was the high of highs for us. And also, projects vanished in a moment.
I mean, and honestly,
that they're getting done somewhere else.
Things we loved.
And so I mean, and those are the lows of, I mean, we had one day this year where we got 3 no's on 3 different projects in the same day.
I remember
and I literally,
oh man,
I had therapy that night, thank God. And I went to the therapist and was like, "Whoa, today was a day."
So then going into 2023, then I think, and again, we've talked about this. I think, and we're already doing this at the moment, or we actually have at least 3 things that we want to write next year. And I think it's going to be a matter of writing those things. I'd like to produce at least 3 specs next year. You know, maybe 4 if we can do it. And I think there's just an energy that comes when you're creating stuff. I think it comes from being able to talk about those things in meetings. So we're working on this spec at the moment. Oh, that's how, you know, I just think that the energy of creation begets more creation. I'm excited for our producing projects. I'm excited to see what happens with those. I'd really like to see
a new kind of avenue of our career that we're exploring.
It's
been really fun to do that as well.
It has been. And that is a part of the industry that I want to gain insight into. And we continually wanted to do that. You know,
we talked about it for years.
The film we made 12 years ago. You know, seeing a bit more of it when we were working on The Princess, seeing a bit more of it now that we're, you know, producing some of these other things. I just find that side of the business really fascinating. I really do. So I think that's something that we can continue to do. And I just want to continue having fun and continue enjoying what it is that we do. You know?
I want to add that I want to do a pitch next year. I do feel like, and we had a conversation about this off the air a week or so ago, and I think that one of the things that and it's about kind of knowing your strengths, and one of our strengths for sure is pitching. And we have so many ideas that if we can't write all 4 specs, let's pitch.
Absolutely. I think that's always one that we both know. We're like, oh, let's do that as a pitch, and I think that would be really. I'd
like to push our reps to be okay with doing the pitch again.
Yes,
so it's weird. This town goes through these cycles, and we would. For 6 years, all we did was pitch.
I know. It was all about, hey, have you got your spec? And again, like having a spec, I think is important. I think it's good for writers.
Yeah, totally.
New work out there in the world. But yeah, absolutely. If we can get a pitch out there,
I'll tell you, a spec takes a lot fucking longer to get paid on. Especially now, because you have to do all the packaging up front. Whereas I feel like with a pitch,
it's a very valid. Actually, weirdly the slower route.
It is the slower route. A pitch, we've prepped a pitch in 2 weeks before.
Mm-hmm.
You can get on a Zoom and attach someone to a pitch in that moment. We did on the thing that we ended up deciding to spec later, which was a mistake, in my opinion, but whatever. But you can get an attachment in it on the same day, and then you could go out the following week and sell it.
Yeah.
And then get paid to write it.
Yeah.
So
it's not instant though, is it? There's still the negotiations of stuff. It's always a few.
The negotiations for a spec and a pitch will take the same amount of time.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So, it's just having that extra kind of quicker, and pitches are development, and so they're harder to sell.
Yeah.
But they do.
If it's the right idea, it's the right idea.
They do sell.
We had some questions, didn't we? We had some questions for suggested topics, didn't we?
Yeah. One of our Twitter followers, friends, Bill, actually asked about the best or worst purchase that we made. I'm assuming he's talking about after the Winter's Night Sale. I don't know if he's talking about us personally or if he's talking about like purchase of, I'm assuming he's talking about just like actual purchases.
Buy after we sold up,
because he follows it up with, how do you guys celebrate after a deal or a good year? And he's like, my bad if I touched on that already. And then also rep gifts, giving gifts to reps.
Yeah.
And look, here's what I'll say about rep gifts. We'll start with that. I think if people really work for you and you really feel that they have contributed to your success for that year, give them a gift and show them your appreciation. And I think that however, that assistants are really who we should be gifting.
Yes.
Because they really work hard and don't get nearly the compensation.
Completely right. And again, it's worth it. And it's not about why you do it, but the studio executives of tomorrow are the assistants of today.
It's true.
And per what you're saying earlier about the relationship business, it's a relationship business. And if you treat people well, people remember you. And if you treat people badly, they bear grudges forever.
Yeah, it's true.
People remember. People remember any kind of slight, and people remember, those people were good people. So again, it's not about like why you're doing it. You're doing it because you're appreciative of someone's work. That's why you're doing it. And the ancillary benefit is these people go on to do all different kinds of things.
I don't think, I feel like people get very anxious about this. There was a whole thread on Facebook in a WJ writers group about rep gifts. I think that I get it, because I tend to sometimes be anxious about these things as well. But I also feel like, people know, especially your reps, how your year was. And if you did not have a good year, well, they know that, because they're the ones that were trying to get you work. So I feel like, if you're stressing because it's the holidays and you didn't have a good financial year, you shouldn't feel stressed to get your reps gifts. I think if you're doing all right and you appreciate the work that they're doing, then yeah. And also, I feel like gifts that are personal, and this is for reps. So for reps, it's not about how much you spend. It really is more about the thought, because they can fucking buy whatever they want. They have the money. It's like trying to get something for someone who already has whatever they need.
Totally.
For assistants, I think money is good. So it's like, give the assistants a gift card or whatever, Starbucks card or whatever, so that they can take a little pressure off their pocketbook. get the rep something that you think that they'll actually like.
Yeah.
Is find fun or funny or cute or whatever, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the best or worst purchase after our Winter's Nights sale, I don't know. Actually, I genuinely don't know how to answer that one. It's too long ago.
Yeah,
but
the question of how do you celebrate? So one of the things I always remember, and this was early on when we being repped, we haven't sold anything. We went out when we had finished a draft of something, and you said it's really important to celebrate when you've done something, to reward yourself when you've done something. And again, going back to James Clear's Atomic Habits book that I've been talking a little bit about over the past few months, it's one of the things that actually helps build and formulate good habits is what are you going to give yourself and allow yourself that's good if you do something.
Right.
And that can be as small as I finished the scene I want to write, buy myself a hot chocolate, or I finished the screenplay, we finished the screenplay, we're going to go out for a meal. You know, it's what we used to do. We used to go to we're going to have a nice lunch somewhere. The thing's going to have lunch, you know. Now I'll go tell my wife, you take your wife. What do you know? It's like, but what do you do to celebrate a victory in some way? I think it's very important to celebrate all the victories that you have, even if they're seemingly tiny, because it's just going to reinforce that that's a good thing within your psyche and your body. It's so important to do. When we've had a good year, I like international travel. You know, I like to fly back to the UK. We're planning another trip next year to Europe that we really want to go on, that we've pre-booked in advance. We'll see if we end up actually being able to do it or not. But my wife has already booked I think 5 or 10 days in Positano, Italy next year.
Wow.
The Airbnb. Again, but we like that. We're setting that intention because that's what we're going to do. You know, I know you like going to Hawaii. I took my family to Hawaii this year as I'm going to go and have a nice vacation. And that be, you know, when we got the princess that are like, what was it? We got paid we got a nice check earlier on in the year for the princess. I was like, can you go and buy a new TV? You know, like go and just like, again, don't go excessive. It's important to plan, to be cautious with your money. It is.
Yeah, especially in this career.
It absolutely is. And also, you know, go and buy yourself something nice that you want and delay that gratification. You know, I'm gonna go and do this thing when this happens. You know, rather than just like, oh, I can go and do it now. And like we're in a situation whereby we can go and spend money on things as and when we want it. Most of the time, we're very lucky in that sense. But like for me, I go, oh, can I delay that gratification? Like, do I need that right now? Or can that be something that I do when?
Yeah. Like I'm waiting to do this when the next thing sells, or when we have that next moment. I think that having those moments of reward are so important, because we just, as we were just saying, you know, some days you have days where you get 3 no's. This career is filled with an enormous amount of rejection on a regular basis. And so when you have those moments of success, whether it's, you know, even if it's just a personal success moment in like finishing a draft that you were really struggling on, or, you know, sending that email to that producer because you finished those notes, or whatever it is, like you need to take a moment. You go, even if the reward is just, we're taking the day off tomorrow.
Totally. Absolutely.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
You know? You do. You gotta reward yourself for those things. Indeed. Absolutely. Something I was thinking we could talk about, since I don't actually have any other things. Nobody seems to like me on Twitter much, which is why I think I'm gonna actually
it's gone weird. It's gone.
No. The WGA, the Writers Guild of America, our union, and 2023 coming around means that it is a contract negotiation year.
Yes, it is.
It is. Someone made a comment on one of our previous videos. I don't know if you saw it, Jake, about it was the selling season one that Nick had made. Yes. And it was about how their reps are thinking that January and February may be a bit of a feeding frenzy, prepping for what could be a strike.
Yeah. I saw an article in Deadline, I want to say a month ago, where they were talking about that as well, kind of going, will they be pre-buying things so that it can be,
They say that every 3 years.
They do.
Every 3 years I hear, there might be a strike, so they're going to start buying stuff up. Here's my thought, and I wrote it in the comments so people can read it, but I'll just say it anyway. I think in TV, there will be a push to finish scripts and to get pilots finished so that they can go into production pre-potential strike. I mean, none of us hope that we are striking. It's a possibility this time around, as it always is. And it has been the last 3-4 negotiations. As long as we've been in the guild, they've been saying we might strike this year. I think with features, it's different. And I'll tell you, this is why I think so. The feature development cycle is significantly longer, and the process of a slate moving forward takes a lot more time than a strike. A strike is going to be, 3-6 months?
Yeah, it would be more like if you had a project in development now,
you'd want them
to finish, and you were moving towards a production date, and that you needed a rewrite before a certain date.
Right.
That would be it.
But are studios going to start buying up spec features because they're worried about a strike? I don't think so. Yeah, these companies have so many projects that they're buying things today to be released in 2 years. Like, there's so much that can be done without a writer.
Yeah.
If you're buying a script, which a lot of places now are buying scripts that are a draft or 2 drafts away from going into production, you're working with your director, you're working with your production designers, you're casting, you're working with your producers. There's so many things that you don't need your writers for.
Right. Sure.
That I don't feel like what does buying a new spec do to help you with that? It doesn't actually help that process move forward.
Yeah, so, I mean, what was the link to the strike in the last major? It was 2007. I know, because I just moved to LA and I lived around the corner. From the WGA. I lived right on Beverly and Fairfax, and just down the street, just on 3rd. And I remember I had this link that had all the things that they were trying to move into production pre-strike. But that was one of the longest ones in recent. I think it was 107 days.
It was long. I can't remember. But here's what happens for feature writers that I think. See, I don't know that there's going to be a feeding frenzy on spec scripts because, again, I feel like the development on features just works differently and moves at a different pace than television.
Right.
But a strike really hurts feature writers in multiple ways. One, not only can you not sell anything during that entire period, and for feature writers, we get paid when we sell things. And so, and as we know, there's only so many times of the year really where things are selling and things can get pushed off. And then sometimes, as we were talking about with packages, people get attached to other projects. It can really fuck your project. And when you come back from a strike, everyone and their fucking mother has written a spec. And so you're now competing with a project that you were going to take out in a normal type situation. You're now competing with 100 other scripts that weren't going to be there otherwise.
Right. Yeah.
And so that can set you then back another 3, 6, 9 months because maybe somebody else wrote the same idea you wrote because they weren't working on their show during that period of time.
Yeah.
And I know, feature writers really had a hard time after the last strike because it's not like you just go back to work. And that's the difference. TV writers, yes, it sucks. You stop getting your paycheck and you have to stop working.
Yeah.
But then when the strike ends, some shows, I mean, it can ruin TV writer careers as well. Look, some shows get canceled and they're done. Projects that were in development,
and then also
move on.
Shows that get cancelled. I mean, there were numerous ones that people still talk about today. People go, "Oh, it was the 2007 strike that destroyed Pushing Daisies. It was the 2000 strike that destroyed Heroes.
Right.
It was the, all those things that were destroyed." And that absolutely.
Does, but as soon as a strike ends, when again, because TV moves at a very fast pace and content needs to be constantly churned out for TV stations and now streamers to survive, those rooms will form immediately after the strike. You might have to go out and get a new job, but it's not like for a feature writer, you're like, okay, now I can finally do the fucking most difficult thing ever again,
I think let's talk about the probability of a strike.
Yeah.
I think you just said something, we're going to go, that's really interesting, because we are in these content wars at the moment, and they're still very much ongoing.
Yeah.
With Disney Plus and Netflix. And again, does Amazon really care? No, because Amazon's chief business isn't entertainment. Same with Apple. So I actually don't think that they're part of this streaming war, interestingly enough.
Yeah, not as much.
Not as much, because if their streaming services suddenly went away tomorrow, they would still be making billions of dollars through their primary business. So it's
interestingly, like
and Paramount Plus, I think that's really where it's still, they're seeing what's going to happen.
I mean, it's funny, right? Like Paramount Plus and Peacock, I think they're still trying to figure out if they're even going to survive. Like they're trying to keep their head above water.
I hear it.
Disney Plus and Netflix are firmly established.
Yeah,
but Disney, interestingly, their entertainment business is not their main source of income either.
It's right. It's not.
Their park business is their biggest earner.
Yeah.
So they actually, and I think with Iger, I think they're going to start pulling back on spending the kind of money that they've been spending on content and refocusing on their other primary sources.
There's been a lot of mixed reactions to their content.
Yeah.
Mixed reactions.
But they're doing great. I mean, look, Disney Plus around the world and between ESPN and Hulu, they're they have the most subscribers of anyone. Netflix literally only that's their only business. So if Netflix doesn't keep up with the other places that have these other outside income streams, they're fried.
The point I was trying to make was that the fact that there is still this competition about streaming.
Right.
Does that work in our favor when it comes to TV writers? Because they constantly need that stuff to be coming through the pipeline. Now, that said, I was browsing. What was I browsing last night? Something on Netflix. And Siri Mark was like, "Oh, what's that?" And it was a reality show on Netflix.
Oh, there's a lot of them now. Yeah.
And will you see which is just what happened in 2007?
Reality.
A lot of reality stuff.
They'll try. They'll try, but just like in 2007, eventually they go, "This isn't gonna fly forever." Yeah. If all Netflix starts putting out is reality content, I'll tell you this much: I'm canceling my subscription.
Absolutely right.
So they will have a really hard time keeping customers.
So I would hope that, and fundamentally, I think it's going to come down to the fact that one of the biggest things that we're now going to be really, I think, fighting and arguing for is true digital streaming residuals. Because
let's talk about that for people who may not understand. So the reason that we're talking strike. So basically, the Writers Guild of America, we have a contract with the studios and the streamers and anyone who wants to make entertainment with guild writers.
Yeah.
And it gets renegotiated every 3 years. Our last negotiation happened right smack at the beginning of the pandemic. And that was supposed to be the big one. That was supposed to, or was it the second year of the pandemic? I don't know.
No, 2020 was the first year.
And that was supposed to be the negotiation where we went hardcore on the streamers, where we said enough is enough. We deserve to be paid properly the way that you used to pay us when we were working for the networks. You're making more money than God, and you've been taking advantage of us for a long time. And the reason that they have been able to take advantage of writers is because they are still considered new media.
Yes.
Like they're new. And,
absolutely right. There was a time. When you have Disney and Netflix discussing ad-paid options for their streaming services, how is it any different?
And it isn't. And that's the thing. So because we could not. We just couldn't. Yeah, we couldn't. Yeah. They knew it. We knew it. Everybody just kind of went for like status quo gains. I think we got a little bit of health and pension, or we got like
we made the usual bumps on certain areas. It wasn't
pushed for certain things, but everybody then said, "Well, it's going to come to 2023 because here's where we're at. Writers who write for streamers or whose content ends up being distributed on streaming services, even if those streaming services are owned by major studios like Disney, get paid less for their content than writers who write for even cable networks. Cable networks used to be the cheap place.
Right.
Now streamers are the cheap place, and they get around this because what they do are buyouts. So it used to be if you created a TV show, or you created, or even if you wrote a movie that ended up going into the theaters, or even that just went to TV, you would have some sort of a back-end ownership compensation. You would, writers are entitled to 5% net. That's part of our contract. But if you're on a TV show, that's very, very different. And that ownership actually means something in television. But what the streamers decided to do is say, well, we don't really have a way to correlate exactly how much money we've made off of your one show because we're subscription based. So unlike the old model whereby we would sell advertising and so we would know how much we made off of your broadcast, instead our subscribers are split amongst all of our content. So we can't know. So we're going to have to just pay you a flat fee. And so they have buyout contracts where you get paid up front, your flat fee. There is no profit participation at all. And then you get your residuals. Residuals are another income stream for writers. It has to do with reuse. So the more time something is played, the more the writer is compensated.
And everyone, actors.
And everyone. Yeah, residuals is an entertainment thing across the board, right?
Yeah.
So,
for example, my wife was in two episodes of Law and Order.
Yeah.
And last week we got a check for $300. My wife hasn't been working at. I think she did this like 20 years ago.
Wow.
All the time. And that's,
But that's money that I mean, look, these companies make billions of dollars, right? They can afford it.
Yeah.
So, but streamers negotiated this deal with the Writers Guild years ago. I mean, we're talking like 3-4. Before we were even members, this new media.
It was 2007. That was the big.
That's what the problem is. That's what the strike was. The strike over new media. It was
a lot of it.
We wanted jurisdiction to negotiate specifically for new media content because up until that point, we didn't even have jurisdiction.
Yeah,
it wasn't even like it was considered non-union work.
Right. It's weird.
We in 2007 struck to make sure that we had that jurisdiction. Now, I know there are other writers out there that we know that know way more about this.
Way more about this than we do. I feel like we're always learning about it.
I'll tell you, I want to have one of our writers who really understands this come on in the new year to talk about it.
Glass and Charlie, they're good people to have.
Yeah, Charlie Parlibenades is a phenomenal writer. I think he'd be a great guest. I'm gonna tell him he's coming on.
Yeah, he's coming on. He's coming on. His show Blood of Zeus is the one that's on Netflix.
Yes, Blood of Zeus on Netflix. So here's the thing. I'll try and get to it quicker because I'm a bit long-winded. But we don't get paid jack shit for residuals from streamers right now. It's really, 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 and compared to the way that it used to be in the old days, it's pathetic. On top of that, they've also gone to this shorter season model. Everyone knows this because we watch our shows and you go, wait a minute, there's only 6 episodes, there's only 8 episodes. Back in the day, you used to have 22, 24 episodes. Not anymore. So not only do you get paid less episodic fees, you're also making less on your residuals, and it's severely cutting into writers' livelihoods and salaries. We're actually making less today while the companies are actually making more than they've ever made before. And so there needs to be a way to do this, but that involves transparency that these companies do not want to give. They don't want to have to tell us the numbers and let our accountants at the Guild go through their books.
And I find that absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Because if anybody has accurate numbers about how many people are watching, it's them. Their entire business is based on those accurate metrics.
Right. So somehow, somewhere, someone could figure out how many pennies of my subscription goes to the show Wednesday based on the number of views that it had.
Yeah, completely.
But instead, all they do is share the big stuff with their stockholders.
Yes, it was one of those funny things a few years ago, wasn't it? Whereby Netflix said, here are the amount of views that we've had. Right. And then you looked at what counted as a view. And it was something like, ballpark was like someone watched for 60 seconds, at least 60 seconds.
It's more now, but yes, at the time,
yes,
really, yeah.
And I remember at the time, I think I forget who was the president of the WGA at the time, probably David Goodman, was like, interesting how they're saying how many millions of people are watching because our writers don't see that as residuals. Right. It'll be interesting to see what happens during the next negotiation. Will they go, well, really? They're not really watching. There's not that many. And it's like, well, which one is it?
And if that gets out, that hurts their stock prices.
Absolutely right.
But they have to find, they're in a very precarious situation because they can't start. The place that Netflix is in right now is that their subscriber growth has stalled to the point where they literally are having to do ad-supported content in order to make any sort of money so that their stock doesn't fall even worse. And actually today it got crushed because it turns out their ad-supported service is doing worse than they had anticipated. And so they're having a really hard time at the market.
Right.
So for them to all of a sudden go, okay, we're going to take less profit on each show, which is going to show our shareholders' balance sheet even worse.
Yeah.
That is going to be a fight. That is going to be a knockdown brawl. But here's what's interesting that happened this year. We, as the Guild, won very important arbitration.
Yeah.
Whereby we took Netflix to essentially court, but it was an arbitration.
Yeah.
To say, you are treating these movies as if they are theatrical movies, but you're paying them TV, you're paying them your streamer rate, which is not what you would normally pay if you were licensing the movie from somebody else.
Sure.
So very quickly, if Universal has Fast and the Furious and Netflix wants to stream Fast and the Furious, they pay Universal a buttload of money to stream Fast and the Furious. The writer of Fast and the Furious gets paid a residual fee based on that licensing fee. It is not the same as if Netflix makes a movie and just streams it on their platform.
Mm-hmm.
And we won this very big arbitration whereby all these movies that were released for a few days in the theater or whatever it was, they had to go back and pay those writers as if those movies had been licensed to Netflix.
Yes, absolutely.
Because those were not just straight made for streaming from the streaming service.
Completely.
And that move was a big one, and it we'll see how this all plays out as it moves forward in terms of where it ends up kind of falls. I mean, that affected those features, but then of course they get wise and they go, well, then we're going to be much more picky about what we're going to put in the theater. And it doesn't help TV writers either. Now these negotiations will happen in
May,
April, I think is when it starts.
Yeah, probably.
I think it's usually around my birthday.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. So I think it's May the something is when it early May when
that's when it ends. But the negotiations usually start about a month ahead.
Yes.
And the pre-discussions will start before then.
Yeah.
We will probably have to take a strike authorization vote sometime.
I'm anticipating.
April.
You know, when it was 2017 when we got a strike authorization.
Yeah.
So this is what happens again to people who are not currently yet in the Writers Guild. When there is the rumblings of a strike or when the negotiations are not going well, the guild calls on its members to vote for whether or not its members think there should be a strike or not. And it's legally bound by this vote. You know, if the vote does not pass, I think it's by 65%. I think it's a high amount.
It's a pretty high bar, but every time we've ever taken a vote, we've always been united.
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely.
That's the power that the Writers Guild has that other guilds don't.
Yes. So the Writers Guild goes to its members and says, "Do you author? If we needed to, will you agree to strike?" And then everyone votes yes or no. I think the last time it was like 97.5% of the members voted.
Crazy.
It's a large number.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Because this is just for an authorization.
And it's just
not actually to strike.
Yes, but then the guild can then go back to the bargaining table and say, if you don't come to terms with us, we have an authorization by our membership to strike. So it is another part of the negotiation. But we were going, are we going? And it was up until the very last minute. I think it had exceeded it, actually. I think it had gone over.
There were extensions. There were multiple extensions, which they are allowed to do as well if they are in the middle of legit negotiations.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if there will be a strike next year. I am prepared for it.
Yeah.
And I think we should be prepared for it.
I think we should
too.
That's
worth having. I think it's a fight that's worth really committing to.
Well, it's not new media.
No, it's not.
It's not new. It's in fact, it's actually more commonly used than traditional media at this point.
I'm sure it is.
And there's zero reason that they should be paying less than traditional media would. And I also think that if we don't do it now, it's only going to get worse.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't, eventually it becomes out of your control. The standard has been laid for so long that it's impossible.
Since I lived in the States, I've never, and this was 2007, so I've been here for 15 years now. I have never once subscribed to cable or traditional TV.
Really?
I always had something else because it was just streaming stuff was just kind of starting then. I remember watching Lost on ABC.com.
Really?
Yeah. I remember watching the finale. It was like you could. I never did it.
I've never not had it.
I know, absolutely. You have it now still?
I use YouTube TV. So while it's streaming, it's still technically I still get all the traditional broadcasting cable networks.
But yeah, I personally can't stand regular TV. Whenever we're on vacation and we turn on the TV in the hotel, I'm like, oh, I hate this. Stop trying to sell me Viagra. I'm not.
You know what? I hate the commercials too. I use it primarily, I guess, for news these days, and also because some of the programming, I guess, we would normally not get otherwise.
There are some things out there.
You know, especially like cable shows. Like I like The Walking Dead and stuff like that. You know.
I really want to subscribe to AMC Plus or whatever it is just for that one show.
right. Yeah, I mean, you get a little bit more variety. I would probably get rid of my TV if I didn't have other people that like to watch it. If it was just me, if it was only me in my house, then but you know, I have kids too, so we got to have Nickelodeon and all that kind of stuff. So 2023 could be a very interesting year.
Very interesting year. I agree. Absolutely.
It could be. And I think that brings us to the end of our.
It does, the end of our lives.
No. Okay, before we leave, what is the movie you are most excited to see that you know has a release date moving forward?
Truthfully?
Yes.
You're gonna think this is weird.
Yeah, I know.
I'm really excited to see Megan. Interestingly enough,
I don't even know what Megan is.
Yeah, so Megan is Deus Ex Mechanica, or no, Ex Mechanica,
Ex Machina,
Machina, and Chucky, and
you told me about this.
Yeah,
who directed it?
What's that?
Who directed it?
I don't know. I don't think a big director. It's a smaller movie. It comes out in January. It's got January release, and I'm just like, oh, this looks totally weird and fucked up and great.
Wow. So have you seen the trailer for 65?
I saw the trailer. Now, see, I have very mixed feelings about the trailer for 65 because I go, and a lot of people like Daniel Kunka was talking. He's like, this is amazing. It's so simple. And I was like, it almost feels like really worn territory because it's dinosaurs. It's almost like, for those of you who haven't seen it, the concept is a space traveler lands on an alien planet. And it's surrounded by all kinds of dangerous monsters and has to accompany a girl from one place to the next place. But lo and behold, it's not an alien planet. It's Earth 65 million years ago, and the aliens are dinosaurs. Right. And it's so simple. I go, that's just too simple, and it feels really warm.
It feels like a Planet of the Apes. It kind of feels like a Planet of the Apes ripoff.
It does. And
I know it goes in the opposite direction.
I know, and yet it just kind of feels like it gives in that.
You're an astronaut. You think you land on another planet, but instead it's really Earth.
Now I'm very excited because it's Beck and Woods. I think they directed it. Beck and Woods wrote a choir.
They did. They directed it.
This is their directorial debut. I'm really happy for them.
Yeah.
And also, weirdly, it feels like it's. Although I haven't seen a movie like this, it doesn't feel fresh.
And you know what also is funny to me? Like what people aren't remembering is, do you remember Predators with an S, where Adrian Brody got dropped down on this planet and basically had to fight all the monsters and it kind of looked like Earth? When I see Adam Driver in this fighting monsters with a gun, I'm just reminded, like, oh, so it's the
it's funny. Like I saw it and I was like, and people were buzzing about it. I was like, yeah.
I do think it looks fun, but I don't get overly excited by dinosaurs anymore.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think that's part of it. I just go, okay.
Well, what else would it? I mean, if it's not dinosaurs, like another random monster probably wouldn't have been as fun either. So
no, I mean, don't get me wrong. There is something wonderfully unique about it, and so I'll go and support it. I'll go and support them.
I'm curious as to why the girl's there.
Yes, totally. I think he goes in. Yes, totally. Yeah, all those. Yes,
there's questions, and I like that. I like that it asks questions. Yeah. I'm really excited to see Avatar. Came out yesterday.
I know.
I'm really excited to see it.
Totally. I want to go and have my eyeballs exploded, which is what I feel like I'm going to get with it. It's just I can't want anyone. It's a long ass movie. Is it 3 hours?
Over, I think.
Over 3 hours. I just go, can we just make movies that are 2 hours-ish?
Yeah, 3 hours. It's a big commitment, I will say. It causes, because that, like, driving to the theater, getting there a little bit early, driving back from the theater. I mean, it
my
really
kids
is
don't.
like,
I think it's a bit. My kids aren't quite old enough to see it yet, so I've got to figure out who's going to look after the kids for 4 hours.
Phoenix isn't old enough to see Avatar yet.
Phoenix is, and Phoenix has watched the first half an hour of the first one.
And Bodhi watches Marvel stuff. He'd probably be fine in Avatar.
Yeah, but sometimes he gets scared by certain things.
Okay.
It's kind of like pre-vet. Bodhi is 7. My son is 6.
Right. Yeah, it's probably true.
Anyway, happy holidays, Ben.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone out there. Hope you have a wonderful holiday season, no matter what you are doing, whether you're with family or you're with friends.
Thank you for joining us on all of this wonderful journey on our Ben and Jake Write a Movie podcast.
We'll get back to actually writing a movie.
We will. We're going to write a movie next year.
Sure.
Come back with us.
It's already, but we're going to finish it next year.
Yes. All right. Bye, everybody. Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.